One of the big issues I see when I coach new players at Street Fighter V is a lack of consistent offense. A lot of new players will use buttons seemingly at random. A hallmark of low-end offense is either throwing everything at the wall and hoping it sticks, or using only a couple of strings that a player knows how to execute. Today I hope to explain how to diversify your offense to beat certain options automatically and reduce your mental workload on offense. Once again, linked below is a list of vocabulary I will be using during this lesson, along with a set of guides for individual characters. Check the frame trap listings for counter-hit conversions. Getting into a position to apply pressure is an entire topic all on its own. That being said, the most common situations that allow you to apply offensive pressure come from jumping, dashing, character-specific specials, meaties, and footsies. Jumping is arguably the easiest to start with, but also the most likely to get interrupted by an anti-air. It offers the most offensive options out of the bunch. I know that one of the biggest pieces of information given to new players is don't jump, but in reality, jumping is an important part of your offensive toolkit. Don't over-rely on it, but don't neglect it either. Dashing is harder to react to, especially if your character has a nimble dash or a suite of tools that are threatening in that dash range. However, the offense you get off of a dash is more limited, as the effectiveness of your dash is dictated by your opponent's reaction speed. There are character-specific attacks that are safe on block or result in knockdowns that are offensive options. These often lock you into a trajectory during use, which puts them in the same boat as dashing and jumping. Jumping, dashing, and character-specific specials are all thwarted by passive reactive play from your opponent. You can't block while doing these actions, and you're locked into a certain path so your opponent can interrupt or evade. Meaties are attacks that land within the first couple of frames of an opponent's wake-up, with the fastest attacks in Street Fighter V being 3 frames, other than Zangief's critical art. Landing an attack within this frame of time limits their responses to invincible reversals, most of which need to be metered. Footsies usually come in the form of a knockdown that is fished for with a buffered button in neutral. If I earn a knockdown in neutral, this usually converts into a meaty situation where I can apply offensive pressure on wake-up. Footsies can also earn jump-ins or dash-ups by causing mental fatigue. I have linked Rushdown's guide on neutral in the information section below. A much maligned concept in fighting games is the tendency of players to flowchart their offense, becoming predictable. However, some decisions can't be made on the fly due to being unreactable. As such, to new players looking to improve their offense, I suggest starting with string-based offense. String-based offense is boiling down offensive options into a set of strings that all relate to one another. Upon getting into an offensive position, my goal is to pick from a list of various offensive options based upon what I think my opponent will do. If I guess correctly, or my opponent guesses incorrectly, I am rewarded with a knockdown. By boiling down my offense into a set of strings, it allows me to put up a reasonable offense without thinking too hard. Everyone makes these sorts of decisions on their opponent's wake-up. Our goal is to diversify our offense to cover several different defensive options. The first decision point for my offense comes from whether or not I think or know my initial hit will connect. If I hit my opponent, or think I hit my opponent, I can do an on-hit string. The two sets of on-hit strings I learn are bread and butter combos and situational combos. Bread and butter options should always work. Make sure to test them against both standing and crouching opponents at varying ranges off the jumping attack you intend to use with it. Make sure these bread and butters result in a knockdown or favorable situation for you. In this example, off of a jumping heavy punch, Ryu can connect a standing medium punch, a crouching heavy punch, into a heavy punch uppercut. As long as Ryu lands the jumping heavy punch at the right range, the rest of the combo works as long as you can execute the motions. Situational options are combos that are labbed later on. These connect only in certain situations, standing only, crouching only, trade combos, crush counter combos, or use a large amount of resources, V-trigger and critical art, for example. It is tempting to practice these first, as they're incredibly fun and some of the more flashy options at your disposal, but practicing incredibly long situational combos that you can't engineer a situation to use them in leaves them somewhat useless. This particular example is a bit different. The target combo that Ryu has in this instance only hits standing opponents. It requires a full V meter and a full critical art meter. And finally, the combo itself is inefficient, as you're dealing with a chunk of V-trigger scaling on the critical art. If it kills, it's great, but a lot of things have to go right. If my attack is blocked, or if I think the opponent will block the string, I lab a set of possible strings that I can utilize based upon what I think my opponent will do. The first is a tick throw. Either off of the jump in itself or off of a native tick throw button, I go for a throw immediately after. This beats people blocking, but loses to throw tech, delay tech, backdash, and jump back. It's also one of the lowest payoff options available due to the lack of throw looping in Street Fighter V. The native tick throw button I'm demonstrating here is Standing Light Punch. Atrocious range, 3-frame startup, +2 on block. This leaves a 3-frame gap between the Standing Light Punch and the throw, making mashed 3-frame attacks fail to stop the throw. Use this with your character if your opponent is blocking a lot. The second option is a light confirm string. This beats mashed attacks or throws, loses to blocking, and the damage result from a successful light string is fairly low. If I don't know what my opponent will do after they block the jump in, or if I'm just starting an attack point blank, I use this string. The light confirm I'm showing here isn't the most damage, sitting at about 130, nor is it particularly great knockdown pressure, but it is a light confirm that starts off the same Standing Light Punch. You sacrifice a lot to use the light confirm, but it's a strong option if you're unsure of the combo landing. The third option is a counter hit string. This beats mashed attacks or throws, loses to block or delay tech, and has better payoff than a light confirm string. If I have conditioned my opponent to try something after my tick throw attack, this is the string I opt for to catch them mashing. This counter hit string demonstrated here eats 3-frame attacks and throws between the Standing Light Punch and Standing Medium Punch, and converts if the Standing Light Punch also counter hits. The fourth option is a greedy counter hit string. This beats mashed attack or throws and loses to blocking or delay attack or a backdash after the second button. The payoff is great, but sometimes you leave yourself in a terrible position if the greedy string is blocked or interrupted. I opt for the greedy string if I have a hard read on my opponent no longer sitting still during my strings. This string still converts even if the Standing Medium Punch isn't a counter hit. When I'm mentioning it here because it has a sizable gap after the Standing Medium Punch leading into the Crouching Medium Kick, which can be interrupted. The fifth option is a shimmy. This beats delay attack and mashed EX reversals, but loses to blocking, mashed attacks, delayed EX reversals, and low attacks. The payoff for this depends on the character and the shimmy you employ, but can be very strong. The strength of your shimmy depends on how far away you want to be from your opponent, as well as what option you want to use on their wake up. Certain shimmies can be high risk, high reward, such as Urian's Crouching Heavy Punch. Ryu has a safe option with meter with Crouching Medium Kick into EX Fireball. These are not the only offensive options available to you, but they're a good starting point to flesh out and diversify your offensive options. This is where we get into the numbers and frame data part of this exercise. Many character guides outright state what frame traps exist for the character. However, you can design your own frame traps fairly easily using readily available frame data with FAT or with the Capcom website, both of which I have linked in the description below. The basic rules for frame traps in Street Fighter V come down to: throws are a 5-frame startup, regular attacks and special attacks are 3 frames or slower, notable exception being Zangief Critical Art. A priority system exists in Street Fighter V. Lights lose to mediums, which lose to heavies, which lose to grabs or throws, with specials trading with everything except for grabs and throws. The magical gap we're looking for is 3 frames into a medium or 2 frames into a light against 3-frame characters, and a 4-frame into a medium or 3-frame into a light against 4-frame characters. Certain attacks or situations can result in a tick throw without needing to walk. Look for those. Counter hits result in a plus 20% damage and additional plus 2 frame advantage. A 3-frame gap or smaller prevents people backdashing during your strings. We can interpret the frame data by using the preceding moves on block and on hit data, and the following attacks startup data. By taking the startup and subtracting the on block, you get the frame gap. We want this to be 3 frames or less against 3-frame characters, 4 frames or less against 4-frame characters. If you take the startup and subtract the on hit, and it's less than or equal to 0, it results in an on hit conversion string. Startup minus on hit plus 2 is less than or equal to 0, results in an on counter hit conversion string. So let's analyze some of Ryu's frame traps that I showed earlier. With Standing Light Punch into throw, Ryu is plus 2 on block after the Standing Light Punch, and it's a 5-frame startup throw. That leaves a 3-frame gap. The move priority means that it beats 3-frame lights. With Standing Light Punch, Standing Light Punch, Standing Light Kick, Ryu is plus 2 on block into a 3-frame with a 1-frame gap, plus 2 on block into a 4-frame with a 2-frame gap, so it beats 3 frames across the board. With the third counter hit string, Standing Light Punch, Standing Medium Punch, Standing Light Kick, Ryu is plus 2 on block into a 5-frame move, which leaves a 3-frame gap, and plus 1 on block into a 4-frame move, which leaves a 3-frame gap. It beats a 3-frame, and then it trades with a 3-frame. Finally, the greedy string that I had listed, Standing Light Punch, Standing Medium Punch, Crouching Medium Kick, is plus 2 on block into a 5-frame move, a 3-frame gap, +1 on block into a 7-frame move, which is a 6-frame gap. This beats a 3-frame, trades with a 6-frame medium. Bigger than a 3-frame gap, and you can backdash after the standing medium punch. It results in an air reset.
Finally, we come to practicing these offense strings. To practice tick throwing, set guard to all, set a guard action to be a 3-frame or 4-frame normal, and then do your ticket throw attack into a throw. If you time it correctly, you'll throw the opponent out of their reversal light attack. To practice confirms, set the guard to after first attack. Practice the hit confirm string and making sure that the first hit tags the opponent before you cancel into the unsafe special at the end. Set guard to random to practice the hit confirm. To practice counter hit conversions, set guard to after first attack, set counter to on, practice converting your counter hit string. Then set the guard and counter to random to practice hit confirming. Finally, to practice shimmies, set guard to all, set guard action to be a reversal throw with a delay of 3 to 4 frames. Practice the shimmy you want to use. Set another guard reaction to be blocking, down back, to practice hit confirming the shimmy against the throw attack. So where does this all leave us? In the session I went over how to diversify your options on offense. The more legitimate options you present to your opponent, the less likely they will be able to adapt to your attack patterns and more fake options that you can present to your opponents. The more practiced you are with your offensive options, the more agile you become with adapting your offense on the fly based upon your opponent.